Sorry, I'm outside in the overcast. Now is a good time as any. My name is Chelsea. I wanted to make this video. I'm supposed to make this video about more details of my spiritual awakening and how it has led me to where I'm at right now and what I understand about what's going on right now. Because I know that everything has perfectly led me to this moment. And if this can help anyone else out there, I really need to share it. So, this is probably between 7 to 10 years ago that my awakening really began, where I was consciously aware of it happening. And I can't remember exactly where it started, but it always starts as like a pulse, little things. I was always in sort of telepathic communication with my guides, but I never knew the kind of language to place with it. Like, I just considered a lot of these things to be completely natural, and I thought that everyone was aware that it was natural, so it never needed to be explained into words to others. But, I picked up meditating around that time really intensely. I remember even the first time I really sat down to do a guided meditation, I made contact even that first time. It was, and then little things like little building blocks of what I now know I could handle at that time. I had small synchronicities, some very deep, profound spiritual presence in my meditations, like physical presence. I've had a lifelong journey with very lucid dreams. When I was a child, I would say that I had maybe advanced nightmares. Like, now I look at them and I feel that they were nightmares that were too raw and intense, and the subject matter was too intense, I would say, for a human child to withstand. But they were coming out more during this time, and then just slowly but surely, all the number synchronicities, all the regular synchronicities, different books that were really activating my DNA and changing the way that I thought and felt. But even more than changing it, it was bringing out what I always knew to be true deep within me, and bringing out the truth of my own connection to the divine that I always knew that I had. Then in 2016, I was guided through, my guides came through a friend of mine that led me to go to India, where I went for almost a year, and I was already very aware of what I was doing. I was very aware that this was a divine assignment that I was on, and the life that I was living, as an artist in New York, waiting tables, really not taking care of myself, um, really, really blocked in lots of trauma that I didn't even know how bad it was. Now that I've healed from it, oh, I can't believe that person before, you know? I can't believe how much pain I was in. But so I went to India and I went through long stints of deep Buddhist meditation, of different yoga practices, of simply being in India, having profound experiences that I really can't, sometimes we really can't divulge them, and they're for us individually. I truly believe that you know it's the ineffable, and we all have ineffable experiences, and that's our own personal thing to have. But I had a Kundalini awakening that I was very aware of it happening, of just not exactly what that meant, but I felt I was in meditation. I felt the pop, as I call it, in my lower spine. And then directly after, I was very disoriented. I was getting glitches of, reality shifting, all of that. Completely, and I was completely sober at this time. I was drinking lots of water, very clean diet. I was in the most pure state I've probably ever been. And soon after that, it was like the profundity of all of it became almost unbearable. Like, I was seeing surreal things all day, every day, you know? People were coming up to me who knew my name and had messages to tell me, and that was only the beginning. I then experienced where I got involved with a Muslim guy in India, which I now know to be a very karmic, it was a catalyst for the final pull of this part of my awakening. When I left, briefly before that, I experienced, for the first time ever, physical abuse, which put me really over the edge of, I was already spiritually in this very vulnerable place, and now I was physically in a very vulnerable place. So I returned back to America and fell into the deepest dark night of the soul for several years on end, where all of my symptoms were catastrophic. I mean, my life fell apart. My body fell apart. I was in and out of the hospital for a year with the same, this is what's so striking, the same kind of symptoms as the virus going around now, but they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. And so I would go in with like 104 fever, body chills, shakes, kriyas, like all of the Kundalini symptoms and all of awakening symptoms that all of us out there right now that are awakening, I think everyone experiences them. I just believe that mine were severe, and I was exhausted beyond belief. I was going through periods of complete memory loss, loss of motor skills, like everything. I couldn't work because I couldn't at some points I just literally could not move. I could only move enough to get outside to maybe get food once a day, and that was it. And then I would lay back down. Went through long bouts of homelessness. But this transpired into unbelievably deep healing. And a lot of this was truly by grace, truly by the natural progression of how spirit enters into your field and works on you. Like, I had straight up psychic surgery multiple times throughout this experience. I have not done ayahuasca yet. It is a plan of mine, but from what I have heard and what people have explained about their experiences on ayahuasca, I would call mine about a 2-year-long ayahuasca trip, where it was all of that. Very extreme physical issues, very extreme psychic interventions, some psychic attacks, seeing spirits and entities constantly. But then deep, like, I was brought to very specific points to go through very specific experiences to heal specific things deep within me. And this whole time, if you've seen it all on my page, I find dimes in really weird places whenever I'm getting a nudge or an insight or a download or a confirmation or a, yes, go this way, do this. I get that. I also, I get the others where I get feathers and lots of clairaudient insight and lots of things in my dreams, but the dimes have been the most extraordinary, I think, because it's just it's such a physical, material thing on our earth plane. Pardon me. An important part of this was that during all of this breakdown phase, I was also on consistent divine assignments where I was receiving clairaudient messages, clairvoyant messages, or messages in my dreams about places I need to be at a certain time to do a certain thing. Not that it's so hard to talk about this with some people because, we've all watched so many movies, but when it's real, it's kind of frightening, like when I would hear, say I was on the train going uptown in New York City, and earlier when I had come back from India initially, I was staying at Airbnbs, and there was one that I stayed at where I had a dream about it prior and then ended up there and had to do some energy clearing and some healing that felt out of my scope. Like, it felt out of my comfort zone big time. And after that, months later, I end up on the train and I hear the clairaudient message of, like, get off at 86th Street, you'll know why. And this is when I just really started to trust them. I started to trust the messages. So I got off and I just listened in and I was led step by step. And then I turned this corner and boom, this guy that I had stayed at, it was his Airbnb. I run literally physically into him and airplane, and he had completely changed. All the healing. He had lost weight. His relationship had changed, his job had changed, everything had changed. And he said that he was happier than he'd ever been. And he thanked me. And I thanked him a lot, because the whole thing, I mean, I was a mess, and really having to pull out a strength that I did not know I had at that time. And this is truly a God source strength. And when you are with it, when you are connected to it and you are aligned, you become untouchable in a way. But after that, I continued, like, I left New York and I went to my brother's in Arizona. I kept getting the dimes, doing the healing. I went to my dad's, who I don't have much of a relationship with, and more things unfolded. You know, it was endless. But essentially, I'm in San Francisco now, on my way to Los Angeles soon. And what's happening now, like when I first got here originally, the plan that I was a part of initially for coming here didn't pan out. You know, it didn't unfold because of the current circumstances with COVID-19. But I got the message immediately in the streets of San Francisco, seeing the level of homelessness that is here, that is just beyond, I mean, it's next level. It's almost India level, which is saying a lot. Like, I love you, San Francisco, but this is a very alarming state to begin with, virus or not, because it's not good for them, and it's not good for the people outside, because everyone's like going hard on hard drugs very publicly, very, you know, flippantly. And this is coming from someone who did experience teenage drug problems, drug abuse. Like, I'm also a recovering addict, and I knew that I had to help these people. That's why I was actually here. So what I've been doing is going around, and when you're on divine assignment, when you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and you're an empath, and you just have that vibration that empaths have, and people just come up to you and tell you their life story just like that, you know. But you have to understand that people on drugs are looking for a love in that drug that they did not receive somewhere. Like, this is trauma-based, 100%. So when you get mad at drug addicts, know that what's really going on is that you're dealing with very traumatized people, you know, that don't really want to be doing the drugs to begin with. But I've met a lot of people in the last couple weeks that I've been here. I've been in a lot of shelters, done a lot of Reiki, learned a lot of stories. I have a lot more intense, deep things to go on when it comes to mental illness and certain things about mental illness. Like, I know that one of my main divine assignments on this planet is to work spiritually on those who have been diagnosed with, say, schizophrenia, because there's a lot more going on. Like, if you don't know anything about multidimensionality, you're never going to be able to help them, you know. A lot of them have extraordinary spiritual gifts, and I know this not from talking to them, just by looking at them, because I see it's like a specific type of energy and a specific type of movement. It's really hard for me to explain, but I see it in all of them. And if we could have people healing and making more spirit contact, if they're supposed to, if that's part of your divine gift on this planet, we'll make waves. We'll make massive changes and massive upgrades to everything. But I can say that what's going on right now with this virus moving, okay, I know that I was not taking care of my body before my Kundalini awakening to the level that I should, and especially being a highly sensitive, empathic, psychic working person, you have to take care of your energy and your body. It's a necessity to survive and to be alive on this planet at all, and it's how you even stay connected to God, to Source, to whatever you prefer to call the ineffable. I want everyone to understand that through all of my deep healing, which meant going through excruciating pain repeatedly, like I like to say that I got spiritually dragged, I got waterboarded over and over, but it was prepping me for now, and it was prepping me for making massive changes in my life and massive upgrades in my life and becoming who I was always meant to be on this planet. And that is what is happening for everyone else now. Like, this is the awakening. This is how things work. And you can't look at this in the way that things have been observed in the past, where it's like you're separated from everything and you're looking at this like, oh, it's a viral disease and it's just killing people. I'm afraid of it. I'm going to run from it. You face it. I don't mean go looking for it, but I mean you face it. If you are, I'm sorry, spiritually speaking, in every sense, this is what is talked about. Doesn't Jesus say this again and again? To not be afraid. This is a true test of what faith and trust actually is. Trust me. I died over and over. I experienced repeated ego death for several years on end. I feel like I got whipped because I did, you know? And I have come back stronger than ever, with more faith than ever, more love, more self-love, more love for others, more understanding, more compassion. And it's like my fear of death button that used to be on full swing, like full anxiety swing, has been shut off completely. And I'm someone who never thought that would be real, but it is. And that is the truth, that anyone that is being affected by this, it's ultimately a catalyst for your awakening. And I knew that this was coming. It's the reason why I set up my Instagram the way that I did, because I was getting the flooding messages from Spirit that this major thing was going to happen. I didn't know all the aspects of it, but when I do energy healing on people, when I see pain or a lot of blocked trauma or a lot of blocked health, it comes up as all the lower chakra colors, and it has movement. And that is what the beginning of my Instagram was all about. Was moving through all of this pain and all of these blocks that people don't know that they have. And I think that I feel so blessed right now to have gone through what I did go through, and that I have survived, and that I'm here right now. And I know that Spirit and Source has my back 1,000%. I've never been more confident in that in my life. And I know it's because of everything that I've gone through. And what I want other people to know is that you also can make it through this, and it will be a catalyst for your growth if you can jump on board. Like, this does not mean join a religion. This does not mean do anything that feels like a fad or because other people are doing it. It means getting in touch with you and who you really are, and finding out what it's going to take to shift your life, and to shift your health, to shift your wealth, your happiness, your connection to Source, your reason for being on this planet, remembering who you are. Just start now. Everyone's like in their homes talking about being bored or doing other things. And for someone who has spent long, almost year-long periods in retreat, in meditation retreat, in silence, in solitude, everything that you want is right there and you can't even see it. You have to meditate. You have to go within. What do you think that Jesus was doing in between those times, like on the mount and going out and healing people? He was meditating. He had to recharge his spirit and his system in order to continue doing what he was doing. You have to do this now too. Everyone that's surviving this. And if you know, I think that if even the people that it's their time to go now, even they know. Somewhere deep down they know. But they're gonna be just fine. And so are you. I promise. If I can survive a dark night of the soul to the level that I did for years on end, you better be damn sure that the world can shift themselves the way that we're going now. The way that it's supposed to be. Okay? I love you all so deeply. I always have, and I always will. This is who I am. And there's going to be a lot more to come of this version of me in the now. Thank you for listening to my rebirth story. Godspeed. Just go within, have faith, trust. I love you. Bye.